Welcome back, everyone, to this section of the course on natural language processing with PyTorch. We've already discovered how to use recurrent neural networks for continuous targets, such as a time series. But what happens when we want to use recurrent neural networks for predicting categorical targets? For example, what word or character should come next in a sequence of words or characters? In this section of the course, we'll be using LSTM units along with natural language processing to create a network which generates character sequences. Based off a history of characters, we'll be able to predict the most probable next character sequence. So for example, we'll be using this text data of Shakespeare's sonnets. Here we can see an example of one of Shakespeare's sonnets, and we can see that there's a particular pattern as far as number of typical words per line, spacing, etc. We can also see there's deeper patterns because Shakespeare writes in iambic pentameter, so there's rhyming throughout these words, such as increase and decease, be, thee, brow, now, etc. Here we can see example text that our finished network after training will actually be able to generate. Something to note here is that this particular text is being generated character by character. So it's actually not learning pure words, it's instead learning what's the next most likely character. Now you should note here that this generation isn't perfect. We can clearly see here that there's some mistakes, some words that really don't exist, but the overall feeling of a Shakespeare sonnet is definitely within this text. We can also see that there's the possibility of learning deeper patterns, such as me and thee or held and child. We can kind of see here that the network is starting to learn that the endings of lines should perhaps somehow relate to the endings of other lines. However, don't feel that you need to look too deep into this because this is actually quite a shallow network for having to learn something that deep. We really just want to have our network be able to generate something that more or less you're able to read and generates something that looks like it's base training text. So the steps we're going to perform in this section are to show you how to read in the text data, encode the text data to a numerical format that our network will be able to understand, create functions in order to create training batches. Then we'll create the LSTM model, we'll train the model, show you how to save and load that model, as well as generate predictive text. All right, let's get started. I'll see you in the next lecture.